I've been teaching and traveling for over 17 years. And right now, I can pack a suitcase, hop on a plane, and think nothing more of it. That wasn't always the case. The first time I moved abroad, I was 22 years old, and I moved from Manchester, my home, where I'd grown up, where I'd gone to university, all the way to Busan, South Korea. I'd never traveled alone before. I'd never been to Asia before. And yet there I was, standing in the airport with my mum and my grandma, and I was terrified. Already, my friend who was supposed to go with me, hey, we even had our leaving party together, had decided that it wasn't for him. So instead of going with a friend, I was now flying to the other side of the world by myself. And I checked in my suitcase, and then I went to the bathroom, and I had a long, long look into that mirror. And I thought, this is where my life can change. I can stay here in Manchester where it's comfortable. I can go on to a master's degree and I can build the kind of life that I imagined for myself. Or I can step outside my comfort zone. I can go and experience and explore what it's like to live in another country. And I went back, I hugged my mum, I hugged my grandma, and I got on that plane. And my life did change because I only planned to go out there for 6 months. 17 years later, almost 60 countries later, and I am still living abroad and teaching abroad. And when I arrived in South Korea, I wasn't ready for that. I had very little Korean language knowledge. My company picked me up from the airport, took me to the school, still in my clothes that I'd worn on the plane, took me back to my apartment, let me sleep for an hour on a rock hard bed. Then they picked me up, took me to the supermarket, told me, we will buy what you need, but it can only be this time. I had no list, I had no plan. They took me back to my apartment, they dropped me off. They said, we'll see you tomorrow. I went out looking for food and I couldn't read any Korean. I got a corn dog, my one and only corn dog in my entire life, because I knew what it was. And also some spicy, what I now know is called tteokbokki, like rice cakes. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but it didn't have any meat in it. And I was terrified that I would accidentally eat something that had dog in it. The following day, I showed up at school expecting some kind of induction. They said, your first class is in half an hour. That first class was awful. It was one of the hardest experiences of my life. Now, if you're thinking of moving abroad to teach English, I have just given you all of the reasons not to do it. But if you can get over that initial hurdle, getting on the plane and leaving your family, arriving in a new country where you don't speak the language, going and standing in front of your first class of expectant faces and realizing that you don't really know what you're doing. If you can get over all of that, then every day will get slightly easier. And after a few years, you won't even think about stepping on a plane. You won't even think it's difficult. You won't even think before you step into class. You'll just do it. And the world opens up in front of you. You have got so much to explore. If you go to that country and you don't like it, hey, you got a year's experience under your belt. Now you can go somewhere else. And teaching English as a foreign language opens up the world to you. So make that change. Step onto that plane, step into that classroom. Because if you put the passion and energy into learning to teach, the rewards will come back many, many times over. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that my experience has inspired you to make that step. Because the worst thing, I think, is living with the idea of what if. Step on the plane, teach the classes, open your world.